Good morning, class, or evening, or afternoon, or night. I really don't know when you're watching this. I am your teacher, Mr. Holly, and this week we're talking about colours. Let's start off with the colour wheel. You probably know what it looks like. It's got, colours on it. Remember how last week I told you that certain shapes have personalities? Well, colours do too. You get the warm colours, obviously you get red and orange, and the cool colours, blue and blue. And then the colours in between, purple and green, which can go either way, if you know what I mean. And then there are the connotations that these colours have as well, such as yellow is often associated with happiness and sunshine, but can also be associated with jaundice and illness. Blue is associated with sadness or the night. Red, fire and anger, and knuckles the echidna. So when you're colouring in your Mary Sue vampire werewolf hybrid, remember that specific colours will have different connotations. So if you draw a character and colour them in red, they'll probably be associated with strength and anger and possibly stubbornness. But if you colour them in blue, they'll probably be calm, perhaps a little bit melancholic. So that was the more emotional side of colours, but this bit I'm just about to tell you is the more technical side. Okay, so you've decided you want to colour in your Mary Sue Vampire Werewolf hybrid. Well, how about purple and yellow? They go well together. That's because they're on opposite sides of the colour wheel and they're called contrasting colours. The other colours that go well together are such as purple and red, which are called complementary colours. That's not to say you can't use other colour combinations. I mean, look at me. I'm blue and red and brown, but that's not on the colour wheel at the moment. And I look pretty darn cute, don't I? Also, as well as going round the colour wheel for different hues, there's different shades going in and out. For example, as you go one way, you get lighter colours, so cream and pink, and as you go the other way, you get darker colours like crimson and brown. And as well as the shade of the colour, there's also how dull or vivid it is, which is slightly different. It's basically how grey it looks. Just remember that the brighter a colour, the more vivid a colour, the more it stands out. So if you draw a character dressed all in red next to a character dressed in grey, then the character in red is obviously the one that's going to catch your audience's eye. If you want the audience to look at the character in red, then great. If you want them to look at the one in grey, then perhaps make them not in grey or make the one in red be less red. And it's very important to be aware of the colours you are using. And you're thinking, of course I'm aware, I'm using the colours. But I say, ha! Ha, sir, madam, or otherwise. Well, I don't say ha if you know what you're doing. You've got to keep in mind how these colours interact with each other in your picture. For example, don't use too many strong, vivid colours, otherwise your picture will seem gaudy and that's the technical term. But equally, if you use colours that are too similar, like just brown, grey, 100 FPSs, then your colour scheme will seem boring. What's that? What's a colour scheme? Well, you'd probably know, but I'm going to tell you more about it. Your colour scheme is basically the set of colours that you use in your picture. And you're thinking, well, why don't you just use all the colours I want? No, handy piece of advice. Generally, try to use the fewest colours possible in your picture. Using too many colours makes your piece seem too busy and complicated and confused. Whereas if you use the same range of colours, it'll make your piece seem a single piece and not trying to be everything at once. Of course, you can use a lot of colours if you want to use a lot of colours, or you need to use a lot of colours, but sometimes making something look confused is important. For example, if you're drawing a massive town that your character's never been to before, you want it to look confusing. Quick tip for colour palettes for characters, you probably want to stick to about 3 major colours. I mean, you can have other ones, but try to limit them. Also, you probably want to have colours of different shades, so you probably want a dark one, a medium one, and a light one. I mean, look at me, my 3 major colours are blue, cerise, and brown. Shut up, my eye's only red because I don't have a cerise pen. It keeps my design simple and clear. What's that? You're still not sure about which colours you want to use in your colour scheme? Well, why not try taking inspiration from things around you, things in nature? Or if you don't want to do that, why not try using some standard colour schemes like pastel colours or rainbow colours? Although rainbow colours involves quite a lot of vividity, so you want to be careful there. Finally, I want to touch upon shading. So if you're going to add shading to your picture, first of all, you need to ask yourself a question. How realistic is the picture itself? If it's not very realistic, you want to go with probably quite flat shading. But if it is super hyper realistic, you want to go with soft shading. That's difficult, and I'm not going to teach you that because I haven't got much time left. Secondly, before you start adding the shading, you need to know 2 more things. Where is the light coming from, and how bright is it? Now, obviously, the direction of the light dictates where the shadows fall on your drawing, but the brightness of the light, its intensity, tells you how dark the shadows need to be. What are you talking about white? We're talking about shading. Shading means dark. White is like the opposite of dark. Yes, Harriet, shut your pie hole. If you have a particularly shiny object, then you'll probably have highlights when a light is shone on it. Now, when adding highlights, as with adding shadows, in fact, you need to pay attention to the shape of the object, as it dictates the shape of the shadow and the shape of the highlight. Also, objects that don't normally have highlights can have highlights if the light is bright enough. For example, usually in comics, when there's a bolt of lightning, everything will be drawn in black and white to show the extreme contrast that the bright light creates. Alternatively, if the light is pretty bright but not quite as bright as the bolt of lightning, you can use the regular colours as shading. Now, this week's optional assignment is for you to draw something and then colour it in using a different colour palette than what you would normally use. For example, if your character is usually purple, orange, and yellow, then try using a colour scheme that is green, yellow, and blue. Or perhaps just try using one colour but different shades of it. As usual, if you're stuck for inspiration, just pause this video so you can read the things going up this screen. If you'd like to turn in your assignments, then my art blog is down in the doobly-doo. Au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, and see you next week.